There are 168 hours in every week. Most of us only use one to know God, find freedom, discover our purpose, and make a difference. This week on the 167, we're going to talk about how stupid sheep are and discover a ministry that you may not have known existed in New Life Community Church. Welcome to the 167. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. We're here with Pastor Rick, pastor of New Life Community Church, and Pastor Jake Reeves, who is our creative arts director. With you is myself, Lucas Motley, the discipleship pastor. And hey, we're back and we're talking about week 2 of this series that we've been in, Red Letters.
We are. Great series talking about the parables of Jesus.
Yep. All the stuff that Jesus is saying, the stories that he's telling us. So this week we were talking about really the parables of the lost coin, the lost son, and the lost sheep. And so we would encourage you to go back, go to our website, newlifegardener.com, watch that latest message if you want to catch up on that. And I just want to talk today about just 3 quotes that I took from the message. And I want to dive deeper. I want to know what you were thinking when you were crafting that into your message. And Jake, I want to know what kind of your reaction was when you heard that now, and kind of now that you've had time to process it.
Or can I say what I think he was thinking?
Oh, that would be good.
Absolutely.
I think this is what Pastor Rick had.
Really what happened is he chugged a Diet Coke, and then, he had a few.
And then he can think what I was thinking he was thinking.
Yes.
If you followed that, I'm proud of you.
Absolutely.
This
is going to be the greatest podcast ever.
Yes.
All right, here we go. The first one was, no one gets lost on purpose.
Absolutely. So physically and spiritually. So in a physical sense, nobody sets off on a journey with the hopes that, hey, I'm going to get lost. It just happens. You're just doing your thing. You're driving down roads. Trudy and I love to get on the motorcycle, go on trips, take a day and just go ride. Oftentimes we'll just take off with no destination in mind. We'll come to an intersection and I'll say right or left, and she will say right. And then we'll turn right and we'll go for a ways and then come to another intersection and decide what direction we're going to go. It's a great way to spend the day. However, there have been times when after a couple of hours, I have to get my phone and say, I have no idea where we are at this point, and I need some directions to get back to a major highway because, well, we're kind of lost. We didn't get there on purpose. We just wandered off.
But you hold your finger to the wind while you're looking at your phone off to the side, and you're
Yes.
like, it's this way.
I was just actually really impressed that you can make the decision. It's not like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Right or left? I don't care.
Yeah. Normally it's pretty easy. Just one way or the other. There's not a lot of options. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, when he was talking about that, nobody gets lost on purpose. What were you thinking about?
Man, I was really thinking kind of on the how in my own life, being a believer, being someone who knows Christ and being one of the found sheep, I experience this on my own level in the sense of, I'll be on fire or I'll have something happen and I'll be like, man, I just feel so close to you right now, God. And then just over time, it's not on purpose. It's just sort of a drift starts to happen, little things, little choices happening in my life. And then it gets a couple months later, I'm like, wait, what happened? And I think for me, someone who knows Christ, someone who knows his voice, for that to be happening, I think of exponentially how much bigger it is for somebody who is lost, somebody who doesn't have any idea who Jesus is. And so I think, that's all I was thinking about, of at least I know who it is, and I can sense when I'm becoming separated in a sense.
oftentimes it's just like a slow fade, right?
Yeah.
Just a slow fade. And
It is.
You don't realize it, and you've just drifted off somewhere.
Oh, and that's where I think your illustration and excellent use of your hands. If you haven't watched the sermon, you should watch the sermon. You're just a sheep and you're eating some green grass, and you see some green grass and you go over there. And so that's it. Your head's down. You're just on to the next thing, whether it's the next job, the next relationship. And you're like, well, this is good, so why would it be a bad thing? And before you know it, boom.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's the real crux of it is, we make our decisions on purpose a lot of times. Like when we're sitting there going, yeah, I'm choosing right, I'm choosing left, I'm not rolling a dice. It's not like D&D, I rolled my die and like, that's what I'm like, that's not what we're doing. But it's, nobody sets out to go, you know what? I really want to be, steeped in debt and in a terrible relationship. Like, nobody wants that destination. We just make, like you said, those small choice. I want to make the choice in front of me with no look to the future.
100%. Yeah.
And that's where, like I said, I feel myself stray in that way where it's just like, it's that gradual, I call it like a veering. Like I'm veering off. I'm not necessarily, hard right turn here. Like I just want to tank my life. It's like, I just veer off a little bit at a time. And
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I said there are a lot of things that capture your attention, but only a few things that capture your heart. Well, in life, there's all these things that just look appealing, and they're not necessarily bad things, but you just start following them, and before you know it, you're just way off track. You just got to guard against that.
Yep.
Well, and the next thing that we were going to talk about is this quote, which I'll be honest, the first time you said it, it took me back a little bit because I was like, I don't know if I agree with this. And I think I've got had a little bit of time to digest it and process it there. But I want to ask you about this quote. It says, you can be lost and not know it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are people who think that they're good people, trying to do good in life. They're, they've never killed someone, haven't robbed a bank. I try to treat people right. So
There are people that have never robbed a bank.
well, I know it's hard to believe, but it happens.
Thought that was just a rite of passage.
I know.
And
Turn
most
60.
of those people, honestly, in America especially, most people would say, well, yeah, I'm American. I believe in God, and, I'm trying to be a good person. And as far as they know, they're good, but they're not. They're lost. They just don't know that they're lost. In fact, Jesus said, Matthew chapter 7, I'll read it to you. He said, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does my will of the Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. People, obviously, who didn't realize that they were lost, but Jesus said, you absolutely are. You are lost. Get away from me.
That's the verse that honestly keeps me up at nights because I'm sitting there going, I think I had that fear more than anything of not if I'm lost, but like wondering about that going, man, whenever I read that, it's a shot at me where I'm like, it's a self-evaluation moment where I'm like, man, am I really doing the things? Do I know God, or am I just walking through the motions?
Absolutely. And it's something that every one of us should think about. Like, am I just playing the game? Am I just, trying to be a good person? Or do I truly love Jesus? Am I following him? Do I love him with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength? Or is that my desire anyway?
What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, man. You have a passage like that, and I think, and just the initial saying of, you can be lost and not know it is, I think that's an easy, just straight truth, especially before you know God, because that's the beautiful thing about the Holy Spirit, that he comes and he convicts and does that work in us. But it's like, even just for us believers, when we read a passage like that, for us to be thinking of, man, it's so easy to not feel lost. It's so easy to be like, well, this feels like God. But the fact is, like, we have to know our shepherd's voice. And so, that the quote of, did we not drive out demons and perform many miracles means like there's stuff happening, but did you know him? And that keeps me up at night too.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are, what I've referred to in the past as like posers, religious posers, who are just going through the motions, don't really love God, but they're trying to be a good person. So this applies to them, but also for the person who, man, they're far from God. They've never really been in church. They're having a great time. The perspective that I think we should have from the church is that there are a lot of people who are lost. They don't know they're lost, and they don't even think about being lost. They're just having a great time. They're having the time of their life, man. Life is good. They're enjoying everything that life throws at them. all along the way, they're getting further and further away from God. And one day they're going to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I'm lost.
Well, and that was, like honestly, like in the moment in your sermon when you said that, you're like, you can be lost, not know it. I was like, really? Like, how does that even happen? Like, wouldn't I know? And then almost exactly how you described it, I got this like flash of a lot of times our family, we go to the zoo, the Kansas City Zoo, and one of my 4 daughters, Genevieve, we call her Evie, she's just rainbows and unicorns and sunshine, and like you guys
Just
know,
like me.
yeah, absolutely. No, she is a total space case, and like literally, we will be holding hands. And we'll be walking in the zoo, and I'll, she's skipping and she's singing to herself, and I'll just drop
Just
her
like-
hand
no, I'm kidding.
exactly like you. And so, like, she'll walk 15 feet, and I'll just stop just to see how far she'll get before she realizes that she's alone. And you watch her, she'll get 15, 25 feet, and then all of a sudden you hear the humming stop, and she sits, you kind of bolt uprights and goes, and then she looks for me, and it's like by that point though, like I've got eyes on her, but she has completely lost me, and it's like when you said that, it's like, well, I'm going along, I'm having a good time, and I'm focused on what, it's that patch of grass again. I'm focused on what's in front of me. I'm just singing to myself.
She
And
has
it's
no
like,
idea that she's wandered off.
yeah. And I was like, that clicked for me so well. But, and I also think that is an incredible thing, and it's going to lead into this next part. But when you said that people don't know how to hear from God, like even that, so Genevieve's 5, and last night she said something to me, and I said, oh, God says, and she goes, Daddy, I've never heard God. How am I don't know how to hear him. And I was like, it's that moment as dad, you're like, oh my gosh.
Did you pull your phone out and play your sermon for her from
Yeah, I'd be
a
like,
couple-
here's how you.
It's like, well, let me make you watch the sermon that Daddy preached a while back.
I just looked at her and said, oh, Daddy will teach you. But like, I think that people, it legitimately scares them that they think that they don't hear from God.
Yeah.
But I think that like what you said on Sunday, that he is pursuing us, like search and rescue pursuing us. Because that was the third quote was, a search is always lost centric. It's always centered on the lost.
Yeah. And again, we lose focus of that. Our perspective gets all twisted in the church because once we're followers of Jesus, we've been in church for a while, it seems like the tendency for churches is to become inward focused, where it's all about what I want, what I like, what fits my needs and my schedule, and it just gets all turned upside down, completely opposite of what Jesus was saying. When he's talking about going and leaving the 99, go find the one, get out there and do whatever you have to do to rescue them, because that's what brings more joy in heaven when that one sinner repents. A little further on in Scripture, when you get to Hebrews chapter 12, again, here's what it says: fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus looked at his journey, even his suffering on the cross, as an opportunity to rescue people. It wasn't for his convenience, it wasn't for his comfort, but it was for the joy that it would produce in heaven, that he endured that, knowing that I might have to suffer, but it's going to produce joy in heaven. So it was absolutely about rescuing the lost, not about Jesus' personal comfort. In fact, if it was all about his comfort, things would have been different. He would have just changed the environment, said, no, we're not going to go this route. We're going to make it easy on me, and that's how the lost are going to be saved. But that's not the way it played out. Again, another passage that came to mind is Jesus being our example, keeping that in mind. Luke chapter 22, he says, Father, if you are willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. And take it, man. I don't really want to do this.
Jesus is not thrilled about having nails
he's
through
like,
his
man,
hands.
but it's not about my personal comfort. It's not about me. It's you. It's your will. And so whatever you desire, that's what I will do. Yeah. That has to be our heart. That has to be our mind. Not my comfort, but what's the plan of God? And the plan of God is to seek and to save the lost. So whatever I have to do to get out there and make that happen, let's do it.
Sure. What is it if it's not immoral or illegal?
If it's not illegal or immoral, let's give it a whirl.
Yeah.
What do you think about that when you hear that that lost centric?
So, man, I think Pastor Rick did a really good job of like capturing the heart of God there. So, like, I won't retread that. Let me go a little bit into nuts and bolts on this. You know, when you talk about as New Life Community Church, how do we prepare services? How do we think about this? And so I can tell you, at least from my world. So as I'm thinking through what's a service look like, what songs are we doing? Unfortunately, I'm not primarily concerned about the people who are coming every single week.
Yeah.
So I'll get, people will come in and be like, man, this song's been amazing in my life. Just like, it's so powerful. Look at these words. And I'm like, that's amazing. But if you came in off the street and like, you didn't know this, is that song going to get stuck in your head? Right. Where that way, if somebody who never knew Jesus walks out and they have a little bit of scripture rattling around in them. And so a lot of times there's moments that will never make it into service because that's it. We're lost centric. And so
if I come to you with a song called Propitiation,
yeah.
What in the world does that word even mean?
That's amazing. And there might be moments or something where it's useful because I'm not looking, for them to try to walk out with that. But I'd say that 90% of the songs that we're looking to help teach truth and everything, they need to be something that a lost person could easily grab onto. Mm-hmm. And so that tends to, it ruffles the feathers of people who listen to a lot of worship music.
And in the church, one of the things that I've heard over the years is, why do we have to spend so much time and energy and effort on the lost? Why do we have to neglect us? Why don't you spend more time helping me? It's like, well, we do want to help you. You are important to us.
Join a life group.
Yeah, but you have life. You have a relationship with Jesus. We can help support that. So we'll come alongside you. But there's someone out there who is dying right now. Mm-hmm. They climb to the top of the priority list. Like they are grasping at life. You're just wanting to get a little further along. That's important, but
nobody's showing up to the ER of a hospital going, we need more ping pong tables. I really like ping pong, and you should focus more on, or like, I need to lose 5 pounds. You need to have more dietary programs and less triage.
In the ER,
yeah. Exactly.
That's a pretty good analogy.
And like, that's my last thing. I want to piggyback off yours where you said, something practical. Like life groups, of course, you do not have to wait on your church to engage in a loss. Like the same thing. If you lost your kid, you're not going to wait for an organization to come along to save them. Like you're going to start looking. And so I think that having a loss-centered mentality is, hey, I'm going to go to dinner anyway. What if I take my neighbor who is far from Christ? I'm cooking dinner tonight anyway. Maybe I can invite my neighbors over. Hey, I'm going to go shooting with the boys. I might as well take my neighbor. It's like, it's that same thing where it's like, I just start putting that in to everything that I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And it's like if you're in a lost-centric mindset anyway, as a believer, it is going to feed into your own discipleship. Mm-hmm. Because as you minister to people, you're going to be like, ooh, I don't know the word well enough, or I'm not spending enough time with the Holy Spirit, or whatever it is.
They're like, they have this question. Now I have to go research it.
It's going to drive it. And so like when people are like, oh, well, all you're doing is, you're just bringing them in the shallow end and walk. No, like, because if you really are, like, how skilled are those people going in the mountains, with helicopters and like rock climbing? They're not just going up like, well, whatever. That's
Yeah, I just literally had a couple of weeks ago someone come into my office and say, I started this discipleship journey with a person who doesn't know Jesus, and they have a lot of questions, and I realize, wow, this is taking me on a journey that I wasn't prepared to go on.
That's awesome.
And so, when you have the lost in mind and you start seeking them and trying to rescue them, it will enhance your own relationship with Christ.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for doing this with me. Like
hey,
I said,
thanks for having us.
I hope you guys at home, I just got to go deeper. We wish you luck in the 167. Stay connected to the vine. All right, well, welcome back to the 167, and today on the podcast, we're talking to some of the ladies that are volunteers in Embrace Grace. And so this is Nova Van Ann and the lovely Carissa Motley. And so I wanted to first of all ask you, what is Embrace Grace? Like, who is Embrace Grace aimed at?
Embrace Grace is a ministry that aims to help out young, unwed, pregnant moms and just get them on their feet and know that there is a place for them in our church where we can support them. We get them baby items that they need and just really try to knock down that wall of shame that like you feel like you can't come into a church and that you feel like everyone like knows what you did. We want to empower them and make them feel confident in motherhood, whether they're young or they don't have a husband, either way.
And so they're once we get them connected, what we have is a 12-week like curriculum that they go through that focuses on things like this is not a shameful thing that has happened to you. We want you to let go of that. And we want to, if they have never been introduced to Jesus, to introduce them to Jesus, to show them that the things that they may have done in the past that they're not proud of, those don't have to define them, and basically just offer salvation. And if they're already, have a faith background, to just strengthen them in that relationship with Jesus. Ultimately, once they go through the 12-week curriculum, we have a baby shower that we throw. We throw them a shower at the end of it, which is really fun, and a way to just bless them with everything that they need. And then ultimately, we do try to set them up with a mentoring relationship so they still have contact with one of the Embrace Grace leaders, someone who can help with childcare if they need it, help with groceries, help with diapers, like all of those things that they may run into that they haven't anticipated. So we try to offer a lot of support.
And that's such a great ministry because you're supporting them in what a really vulnerable time, especially for someone who's younger. They end up pregnant. And like you said, usually it's that shame piece. Usually it's that I can't show my face in church, but this is exactly the opposite. It's let us help you,
Right.
Like reaffirming them, teaching them. What has been as you've been doing this, some of the great moments that you're like, man, we weren't even anticipating that? Or what's been some of the great stories to kind of come out of just the few sessions that you've done in Embrace Grace?
Just the biggest one that stands out to me is one of our last moms. She's 16, and afterwards she was baptized, and she had her baby dedicated here at church, and that was really cool to see that really impacted her, that she grew her relationship with Jesus, and that she was wanting to parent her child and raise them to love Jesus too. That was really cool to me.
Yeah, I think that was a big moment for sure. It was very emotional, just hearing her testimony when she got baptized and saying how Embrace Grace had been a catalyst in her faith and to sort of bring her back to having a relationship with Jesus, that she wanted to raise her daughter in the church. That was a really cool moment for sure.
And what are some of the things that you got to experience leading this ministry that maybe you weren't anticipating? Or
I think going in, we all kind of thought that all these moms would be teen moms. That most of them would be teen moms.
That's true.
And we had a few that were around my age or older, and that was a little bit more challenging just in the way that we addressed them. Their struggles were different than our 16-year-old mom. And learning how to address those and walk with them through that without casting judgment, without telling them what we think they should do all the time, and just kind of understanding their problems and what they're going through. That was a growth thing for me, just because I had never done a mentorship kind of program before.
And I would say, actually, I'm kind of on the opposite side of that, where it was more challenging for me to deal with a 16-year-old because it's kind of a long time ago for me. But like, she was just such a typical teenager, yet her life was getting ready to change so significantly by having a baby. And there was so much drama, right? Like that was the part that I was like, oh my gosh, all the drama. It was a very intense but dramatic like situation. And I was not prepared for how that would affect me. Like I got stressed out about some of the stuff in her life because it was really intense and it was a lot. And she was just really processing everything. So yeah, I mean, I think, and that's why we have multiple leaders in our Embrace Grace ministry, and I think that it's good because we all kind of connect with the moms in different ways based on our own life stages and experiences as well.
And since you touched on that, your own life stages and experiences, Embrace Grace is a national program. I think it was based out of Oh shoot, what's
Texas, isn't it in Texas?
Robert Morris's church?
From Gateway
From
Church.
Gateway Church, that's right. So it's based out of Gateway
Yeah.
Church. They started it there. It's become its own national program.
Right.
What initially drew you guys to this and said, man, we need to do this as a church? Like, why did you want to be involved in this?
When Michelle Bolton came to me, it just immediately, I wanted to do it because I was a young unwed mom. I was, like Brandon's was in our lives, but we weren't married, and I definitely felt like a ton of shame, and I didn't ever want to go into a church. I felt like I had a very outward, like, showing of my sin. I was pregnant, and then I came back with a baby, and it just did not feel okay, and I didn't feel until I came in like that I was welcomed in, and I wish that someone would have, like, come to get me and said, like, hey, we want you to come do something with us, like, and loved on me in that way. That would have helped me. So immediately I was like, that's the perfect ministry for me.
And I would say too, like one of the main slogans that they use in the Embrace Grace ministry is that they really strive to be pro-love. So for me, it's really important to encourage these women in crisis who may be considering abortion, that the church is not a place of condemnation, but that they can come here when they're in crisis. I'm really passionate about people feeling like the church, the Big C church and the local church is a place where they don't have to run away from the church when something happens in their lives, that should be a place that they are running to, because we're going to offer them love, and we're going to offer them support, and we're going to offer them Jesus. And so that's a big premise of the Embrace Grace ministry, is just this idea of being pro-love, which leads to, this is a support for women who are choosing to raise their babies, but also women who are choosing to give their babies up for adoption. And so just the ability to minister to the mom and then support her in whatever decision she's making, but that it's a pro-love type of choice, which leads to benefiting both the mom and the baby. So I think that was a really appealing thing for me, reading about that ministry and just feeling like, yeah, that's a really important thing that I wanted to be involved in.
And so for the people listening in the podcast right now, they're going, man, this sounds something that's incredibly impactful, because it is. It's that moment where it's complicated and everything, but in the end, it's a baby, and we're going to
Right.
love that baby.
For sure.
So they want to be involved in this. How can they help out?
I think,
Oh, sorry.
I think the biggest thing that we actually need right now is that we do have a lot of people who want to support this ministry. We have a ton of donations already. We've had monetary donations. We have a ton of volunteers. We need people to help tell the community about our ministry.
Get the word out.
Get the word out, for sure. We have had 3 single moms come through so far. We really want to be able to expand that and minister to more. I mean, we know they're out there. So we know that there's other avenues that people would be able to connect with young single moms. And so, I think if people who are willing to talk about the ministry, get information from us, take that out would be a big help for sure.
All right. Well, if you are listening to this or watching this, what we want you to do is, if you'd like more information about this, or you have somebody that you think would benefit from Embrace Grace, and you think that they just need that mentorship and they're facing that same situation, we want you to send us an email at info@newlifegardener.com. So it's info@newlifegardener.com, and we will get you hooked up with Embrace Grace.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for coming on and talking about it.
No problem.